Do you quick want to introduce yourself? Let us know what to call you. I feel
Okay,
like
so
I feel like these conversations might work a little better if there's a person and
yeah,
not just
sure,
insert
sure, of course.
antagonist here.
There is a bit of a delay, I think, so I will try to add more pauses between the time I speak because
Discord
when you
delays.
started speaking. My name is John, he, him, um, and I actually rethought what I said about you.
Okay.
Well, I do think that uh, you were in a large part peer pressured into your opinions because I think that even I felt the peer pressure and I am almost immune to peer pressure.
Hmm.
I think that the zealot term, I would not call you this term anymore, less because of what.
So we can catch everybody up in the chat though. Do you want to maybe rehash what that opinion was, like the things that you did say? Because I think there may be some
Yes,
people who have
yes,
seen
okay,
that, and
sure.
there are some people who may be like, I mean, that's cool, but what did you say?
Yes, yes, of course. I mean,
Sure.
sure. So I called you anti AI zealot
Hmm.
because you had rather strong opinions about AI,
Yep.
and I have let's say opposite opinions. I will explain everything later. First, like the conflict. I called you a zealot. But right now I would not do so because less because of what you did, but more because of what others do, what other people I would call zealots, but those would be the people who have not even bothered to learn anything about the topic. And
Hmm.
I think that you actually used some of the AI tools. So
I do.
now that
I've been very open about the fact that for things like search engine optimization, I will, and sometimes video titling if I can't think of something off the top of my head. Like I will use ChatGPT and other tools for that because I feel like that is there are applications to large language model software that are perfectly viable, and I think that anything that requires scraping a database very quickly is something that those tools can do an incredibly good job at doing it in like really fast. And as long as you're willing to use that tool to influence what you're doing as opposed to dictate what you're doing, I feel like that is a use of the tool. That's how the tool's used in the medical field. So I think that's a perfectly applicable tool when we're in a when we're using it for things that, well, let's be honest, a robot is what's performing an algorithmic check for a video. So why not get a robot to do that yourself?
yes. So I would not call you a zealot anymore. And about the peer pressure, I would say that I would still say that your opinion is largely due to peer pressure.
Okay.
In part because, as I said, I have felt the peer pressure, even though I am it's neurodiversity thing. I uh, I am pretty much immune to peer pressure. Well, not pretty much immune. That's a bit too much. But when I am very critical about the opinions I hold,
Hmm.
and I have felt the desire to have the same opinion as everyone else because when it comes to AI, you hear pretty much only one sort of opinion on the internet. There are very few people who say the other sort of opinion, uh, except
You
maybe.
haven't been on Twitter then.
Okay, all right, that's right. I have been on Blue Sky, not Twitter.
Okay,
I have been.
so I
Yes.
not to toot, I'm not going to try to toot my own horn because I don't think that's a good thing to do, especially for someone like me who already has a pretty big ego. But I do tend to look at places like Facebook and Twitter more than Blue Sky or X, whatever the fuck you want to call it, more than I do Blue Sky because there are differing opinions there. And I'm not super interested in what opinions the left generally has. I'm interested in the opinions that the right has. Those are the opinions that I largely critique.
Well, okay. So maybe you do actually have developed an opinion that is more diverse than I thought, but it just from my perspective, you had the same opinion as every lefty about AI. So
Hmm?
far, the only person on the internet I have heard that had an opinion on AI that was formed, but not this standard lefty, was Asmongold, and we know about Asmongold. He's nowhere near the center
Yeah,
of the
he's a
political
very,
sphere.
and there's also an aspect for Asmongold that like oftentimes he'll be contrarian because he knows it gets clicks. Like he knows how to do the clicky rage bait game. It's a thing he's very very good at.
I think he actually believes many of the things he says.
Oh no, I don't.
He is.
I'm not.
He's
I'm not
very
saying he's a.
smart.
So I'm not saying he's a grifter. I'm not saying that he says those things strictly because they get clicks. I think whatever Kool-Aid he dispenses, he also drinks.
Well, yes, that would be. He. I think he does lie sometimes, like when he attacked Niara for the comment about trans children. I think that he knew that he was lying, but he generally seems to believe. However stupid the things he's saying are, he seems to believe.
Okay.
So back to the topic itself, I think that well, you had an opinion that was very similar to like everyone else. I have to admit that I didn't actually watch the two videos, one about me and one about the topic itself, mostly because I expected it mostly to frustrate me rather than inform me, because it was a conflict between us. I have criticized you harshly, and then you turned me into content. I won't won't say that was something worse than what I did, because we always think that what we did to others is less severe than what others did to us. And
I definitely think what I did to you is more severe. Like I have a platform, so anything that I do is going to be magnified. And on top of that, I basically took the opportunity of going, okay, here's an opinion that ostensibly says that I don't perform a self-critique to get my opinions where they are, and also there's stuff in this opinion that I disagree with. I'm just going to do what I usually do and turn that into content. I'd say that's a bit more magnified compared to just leaving a disparaging comment.
Well, all right. I'm glad to hear that you see it the same way I do, but mostly less because it's less harsh on me, but because I wanted to comment that I do personally feel like I enjoy being criticized. It's something when someone criticizes me constructively. I didn't see again the video. If you criticize me constructively, I would appreciate it. It's a very different, like cultural clash as well, because Americans are known not to criticize people as strongly as Europeans. And yes, I would example in America, from what I heard, you're supposed to criticize people by saying, why did you do this way and not this other way? While in Europe, it is often said that you criticize people by saying, I don't really see how could this work. This is a different level of criticism.
That could be the case. And maybe it may be my own like neurodivergence speaking, but I don't tend to see one way or the other. I tend to see just like Americans tend to be more outwardly soft but inwardly harsh, I think is the best way to put it. We're like, we'll think about somebody in the context of them being an absolute piece of garbage, and then maybe it's because I'm from the South, but there's usually an aspect of that where you go, outwardly you are less harsh to them, but like inwardly you're calling them all kinds of names. But that could just be an aspect of being from the Georgia, or from the American South, currently in Georgia, because everybody here is a very like, say bless your heart but mean calling you a slur type of person.
Well, Americans are known to be considered polite. Like polite is the word that is sometimes maligned because of this reason. In Europe, people, when they talk behind someone's back, it tends to be it's criticized. For example, especially among Slavic cultures, it's criticized to talk behind someone's back, but it's also a negative stereotype about this type of cultures. Okay, so let's jump to the topic itself. I do think that AI art, or we could call it something different if you don't like the term AI art. I think that it is a form of art, and we can go one of two ways. Either I explain why I do think it is a form of art, or you would start with why you don't think so. And I would poke holes at why I do think it's not a consistent view.
Okay.
So who should start? Me or you?
I'd say go ahead and lay out your point first. I'm interested. I don't know if it's going to be too much different than the point you gave in the comment section, but I mean, I'm still going to listen either way.
Okay, so I would start with the definition of art, which is I don't remember the exact wording, but it's something like skillful use of creativity. So this is like a common definition. It's not the only one, but it's a common definition. And I think that if the definition is common, it's of course there is no such thing as a correct definition, only definitions that people agree about.
Okay.
And I would say that it has, for me, it obviously applies, but I will explain why it should apply like to everyone who looks at the topic as well. Let's start with the skillful. The reason AI art has to be skillful is that we can identify things that take skill. For example, the AI fingers. AI fingers is not something that every AI has to do at all times. It is something that can be fixed, and fixing it, like specific prompts or choosing a different model, this is something that is a learned behavior. It is not rote learning, so you don't memorize how to fix AI hands. You have to understand how to position, for example, the characters. If you don't want AI hands, one of the ways is hiding hands altogether. Another would be to give the character something to hold, like for example a can with a drink. And depending on how you solve it, how complex is the scene, how many characters, how distant it is, and so on, it is a skill to fix this.
Okay.
So skillful, to me, like certainly and obviously applies. And that's even before we get to like more complex things like fine-tuning your model. And the creativity, I see it as applying as well, because when you want to create something with AI, you start with an idea in your head. What is it going to be? And I think that there is a stereotype about AI art that you just like write something and then you get it, and that is all, and there is no, like, the creativity comes from the AI. The AI does the creativity, which from my experience is not the case, and you rarely get something good if you start with this. You can get brainstorming. This is, for example, like with writing books, ChatGPT can undo writer's block. You can ask for some ideas. And it's the same with visual art.
Okay,
and,
so I do want to say real quick, to avoid getting into the Gish Gallop, I want to make sure that we actually address points as they're brought up.
Okay, sure.
Because like if this were a former debate setting where I was taking notes and there was a moderator, then, you know, sure, take your 15 minutes. But that's not what it is. It's a conversation. So let me go ahead and pause real quick so I can gather my thoughts. On the point of it being a skill, of prompting being a skill, I actually agree with you. I do not disagree. As somebody who has used the tools as well, there is a development curve, there is a learning curve to using these tools in a way that benefits you. On that part, you and I agree. However, something simply taking skill does not make it art, which is why you had the creative part of it as well. You asked what definition of art I would use. I would say for most words, we don't think about the definition of the word that we use. Usually, most people don't have that kind of internal critique. Usually for something like this, I'd say we all have a colloquial way that we understand a word being used. So I'll just grab a definition off the internet and operate with that one. So just from Oxford Dictionary, art is the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form such as painting or a sculptor, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. Okay, so I agree with you that it's a skill. It is a skill that you can hone. It is a skill that you can learn. I do not agree that any human creativity is being utilized in there. And we actually have some studies to show this. I pulled up a study in one of the videos that I used to critique your comment, but I'll go ahead and give you what the results of the study were. The results of that study were that, like you said, AI could be used to undo writer's block. That was a thing that was specifically studied when they were using it. However, the end results of how that creativity got executed was homogenized. So between the people who used it to, like, unjam their writer's block, a lot of their stories that they were writing, not the AI writing, but even the ones they were writing, had very, very similar story beats.
Mm-hmm. And
so what you effectively got was people creating more stuff, getting jammed out of it, but coming up with less creative stories.
Okay, but I would like about like more logical approach at first. So if there is a creative application of AI art, would you call it art, or do you think that because it is in many cases not creative or not very creative,
it depends on how it's being. It's depending on how it's being used. So, for instance, there was a student who I actually covered in one of my videos who created a collage of 600 AI generated images and titled the collage AI Psychosis. I think that's art. I do think that's art, because there was an application of human skill that was not just the generation of the images, but what the story he was trying to tell specifically. There was also a student who, in protest of that art, went in and ate several of the pictures. But I also think that the student eating the pictures was art, because there is a conversation to be had. When AI generates art by itself, there are no questions to be asked about the image, where the answer is not the algorithm decided that this was the best answer to a question. And I don't think that that's how art should work. I don't think that that is art. Whereas...
Yes, but I would like specifically about specific image one image generation. Do you think that it can be art or cannot be art? Like, for example, I'm not saying all of it has to be one way or another, unless you want to say all of it cannot be art.
So if you are just generating an image, the thing that is produced at the end of that, I do not think it is art. I think it can be a pleasing image, but I do not think it is art. Much like if you go out and look at a sunset, that's not art. It's a pleasing image, but as no human input produced an output. That was a machine that did that. It's no different than seeing a random set of pebbles out there. It can be pretty, but that's all it is.
But if you take a photo of this sunset, does it become art?
Yes, because when you take a photo, you have made several micro decisions. You have made the decision of the time of day. You have made the human decision of the angle for which to do the shot. You might have even made the decision about the lens to use. You might have made a decision about what camera to use, because there are different cameras that produce different ends. You may have even decided to use a Polaroid image specifically instead of a digital image because you wanted the output to come out a certain way. You may have even developed that Polaroid image or any other image in a particular way to get a particular outcome. Those things are not part of generation.
Do note that many of these same types of details are made when creating an AI image. For example, before you start,
but you didn't create. We need to start with a definition, though, because you didn't create one. A machine generated one.
I mean, you can say the same about the photo.
No, you can't, because a decision was made for how to take that photo. The thing that makes a photo art is not the image that is inside it. It is the human input that caused that image to come out that way. Now, I mean, I understand
how you can say the same thing about the AI part. I mean, it's not like
I don't think it's the same thing, though, because when you're doing AI, you're not making any of those micro decisions. You are putting in a prompt,
making difference,
and a machine is creating it.
Yes, but you are making decisions like, for example, which model to use, which prompt should have which weight. You pretty much start with a complete image of the sunset in your head.
I have a question for you. I have a question for you, because I think we're going to talk in circles on this point, because this is one you won't get me to agree on, and I don't think I'm going to get you to budge off this rock either. So, I have a question. When you look at an image, what thoughts go through your head?
Well, it depends on the image, because there are many types of images, and many of them have like their own categories. For example, if I were to look at technical image, I will have much different thoughts to when I look at an image that is generated for a specific like artful purpose, or so.
So let's say a painting. Let's say that it's a landscape painting. What questions move through your mind when you look at a landscape painting?
I would mostly check if it looks like something that exists. It doesn't have to be like a photo equivalent. It doesn't have to be a real place. Just something that looks like it could exist. And then mostly about what the technique was used to create it.
Okay, so you don't think about the state of mind the artist was in when they made it. You don't think about like where they were in their life when they did it.
It's a much lower priority. I start with.
So you don't think of the human aspects of it at all. You look at these things purely as technical aspects. That's what I'm hearing.
No, I do think about human parts.
But you didn't describe any of them until I pressed you on.
I described the first few. I do think about many things. It's just that I start with those, and for me, the human does not express themselves through like having a specific human tells. Rather, the choice of how to express themselves is the human part. I don't see, like, for example, the human does not scream, "I am a human." The human shows something, and then we can tell that it was a human.
Okay.
For me, the creativity itself, a human does not show themselves to be a human by doing human specific, not specific, but human, outwardly human things, but rather the creativity itself, it is a human part. For me, if someone uses a tool that, for example, if someone were to use AI generation specifically, as in intent to use AI generation rather than other tools, it would be a very human expression to do so. If someone were, for example, in protest of this different standards for more traditional art and AI generation, were to use AI generation exclusively, this would be a form of a very human impulse and a very human use of creativity, like to show. But maybe not to show, but
it'd be a human use of creativity to directly choose not to engage in the creative process again. That would be a
to use. No, I would
like
say
with
that
how it can be a skill. I'd say it's a choice, but I wouldn't say that it's a use of creativity.
I would insist that it involves creativity, and I don't really. You have said that photography uses this creativity, but AI generation does not, and I still don't see why. You have.
Why did the artist choose to make the picture at sunset? Why was that what they chose?
Yes. I mean, the same thing applies in both cases.
No, it really doesn't, because when I generate an image, the application may be the thing that I select. I may select of a group of generated images an image that I like, but that is not the same thing as seeing something beautiful in nature that in and of itself is not art, and then making the decision to snapshot that moment in time to communicate those emotions that you might have felt at that moment.
But you don't see something in nature and decide to create it when you imagine a sunset and then paint it.
But you do. If you imagine a sunset and then paint it, then you are communicating a different thing. You are communicating the image that was in your mind. That is the part that you are communicating to people.
Okay, so if someone has, for example, a shaky hand and they cannot paint well,
are we going to do the AI as a tool for accessibility thing?
No,
is that where we're going?
I don't think. No, I'm just using it.
Okay, because I was going to say there's about 1 million artists who are disabled who are going to laugh at your face.
No, I want. I think it's a bad argument, but I think that I mean it is a different thing because okay, maybe maybe you haven't made the argument about imprecision and lack of fine tuning, but it is a part of.
But isn't the imprecision part of that process too? Like if I, like as an example, I love the show Ed, Edd n Eddy, and one of the defining factors of that show is how absolutely chaotic its line work is. Like its line work is some of the most inconsistent of any hand-drawn show, and that is one of the things that is most noticeable about that show. It stands out so much that when they did their collaboration with Fortnite for some reason, that was a thing that was integrated into the 3D model.
Yes, but like you have made an argument that AI art cannot be art because you don't. You just said that you do not use this enough creativity. It is
I didn't say
obviously
enough creativity. I meant any at all.
any.
So when
Okay,
you're
so
because
if
you're
someone-
not producing an image, a machine is producing it. The creativity
I
may have
mean,
been
this-
your decision leading up to that, but the image that was created by the machine, the image that it generated, that thing that came out, that thing is not art. Your decision going into it, you may have had a creative decision, but ultimately an algorithm spat it out. It's like saying that you have delicious home cooking when it's something that came off of a factory line. It's still
if you
food.
take a factory pizza and put food on it yourself,
right? And then if you take AI generated images, like I said, and from those images form a collage called AI psychosis, that's art.
why does taking a photo count as you creating it? But when you do the same thing with...
I'm not going to answer a question that I've already answered, or we'll talk in circles, which is why we walked away from this part to begin with. But if you'd like me to do that, I can, because there are a million micro decisions that are made by a human being when you take a photo. What angle am I using? What lens am I using? What camera am I using? What time of day am I using?
There has to be a million micro decisions for it to work, because
there are a million micro decisions that are made by default. They are made many times subconsciously, but they are still decisions that are made. Whereas a machine,
but human is doing the decisions before starting the generation and after the generation to pick which image is the most.
So if I were to go on to, let's say, Gemini, because Gemini has a faster image generation software than ChatGPT. ChatGPT's takes forever, Gemini's takes a few seconds. Gemini's is also worse, but that's besides the point. If I were to go onto Gemini right now, and I were to provide any image generation prompt, and I were to insert that prompt 15 times, let's say 1,500 times, does it not seem strange to you that it would produce 1,500 different unique images if if those prompts had the weight that you're putting on them?
That depends on how specific you are, because if you were to be very specific with the prompts, then it actually becomes very predictable. And I would argue that if you were to create a million images and then pick the ones that you think are best looking, I would argue that this is a part of the creativity process.
So you picked a picture that you thought was prettier, and you think that makes you creative?
Yes, it depends on how you define creativity, because creativity is rather hard to define. But one of the simplest ways of defining creativity is to an efficient way of searching through some sort of complex.
You think creativity is being efficient? You seem to have boiled down a lot of emotional human aspects down to the robotic ones.
No, it's just very hard to define creativity in a way that is that could be in any way processed by someone. How would you argue about creativity? How would you break it down into something simpler? It's a very complex thing, like curiosity. Curiosity is a very hard thing to define.
Yeah, creativity is the human's ability to create something that is original to them. It doesn't have to be original, period, because you can argue that we've only got 7 or 8 stories that have been repeated ad infinitum. The Lion King is Hamlet, blah, 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 blah. You can do that.
Okay,
But
so
if
you
I think
define it by feeling of the person that is creating it.
so, there is a difference between a human being that looks at something and says, I want to copy that, and a human being that looks at something and feels inspired to create something as an homage to it. Do you agree with that?
Yes, but I'm talking about your specific, like maybe not definition. This is a definition, I think. Uh, do you think that the something is creative, a person is creative, or maybe process is creative? When a person creates something, does it have to be created already, or like because I still don't see how would you check this creativity? How would you tell that something is created other than asking the person?
I think so. Correct me if I'm wrong here, and you may just say that out of turn, but from what it sounds like you're trying to boil a very, very emotional part of being a human being down to something that is purely mechanical.
Not necessarily. I'm not saying. I would rather. I just want it to be something that we can agree on. It can be emotional. I would prefer creativity not to necessarily be emotional.
You'd prefer
because there
creativity
are
not to be emotional. Really?
No, I mean
that
definition
is a
should not
statement, sir.
I would. I consider myself to be like superhumanly creative. I actually I have my pattern of neurodiversity forces me to be creative because, and it's a bit of a tangent, but I constantly
Well, out of
lose
curiosity,
the words that I think about, and I have to invent like a new one, and this is on many levels forces me to be more creative.
out of curiosity,
But
then how do you just as a personal curiosity, how do you take your creativity? How do you utilize it?
Many ways. One of the ways is writing. Sometimes I am very badly motivated, but I do write some short stories. Some
Okay.
of them were liked by other people, and sometimes I just use it. I develop a game. Well, right now I don't. I haven't done it for some time, but I've been developing a game that has like 300 semi-regular users.
Mhm.
Not only my, it's not only my project. And sometimes I generate something, some AI art. And to me, all of those are like applications creativity. I do think
All right.
that creativity
So,
is even in normal things like in conversations is still applied. But
yeah, that's entirely fair. Because again, like how I believe that using AI for a prompt, using it well, is a skill that you can develop. You can be creative and still use AI. That's cool. So I have a question. When you write a short story, if somebody were to plug in the broad strokes of your short story into a generation software and were to spit out a story and then say they wrote their own story, they were creative. All they did was read your story, input the larger story beats, whatever they may be, again, Lion King, Hamlet, and they generated a story and then pointed it and said, this should be viewed equally to yours. This should be viewed equally to the thing that was created by human hands.
I would say that I don't really see anything as equal. And if someone were to say, I have created a story based on your story, I would accept it. I would say that they
but
have
would you
done
say that them creating a story based on your story and them generating a story based on your story are the same thing? Do you believe those statements have equal weight?
No, I don't think they have equal weight.
Okay,
but
cool.
I would still say that
pause for a sec.
Okay.
Pause for a sec. So when I'm saying that AI generated images are not art, that is what I'm saying. That statement right there, that you can have an AI generated image that is useful. You can have one that is generated that is pretty to look at, but I do not view it in the same way as art. That is what I'm saying. You fundamentally agree with me.
The problem is that you're saying there is no creativity. I would say that a person,
the creativity
even
is
they
a
were
part of the
completely
generation
full,
process. You may have creativity in what you're choosing to prompt, but the actual machine, when the machine homogenizes data together to create,
it would have to completely butcher the thing. And even if someone were to take my story, I think that even that part of taking a specific story to steal or whatever. I think that involves creativity itself, even the choice itself, the choice of software, the choice of activity. If someone were to decide that they have a talent for stealing other people's works, it's not much creativity to decide that you want to be content thief. But
I'd say that it's no creativity at that point, because you've offloaded the creativity to somebody else. If somebody is just stealing your story, they've decided not to be creative. They have decided to offload the creativity part of the production of whatever they're making. They've decided to offload that to you. That's not creative to me.
I have a different view on things that are completely or zero. For me, anything in the physical world, like it's never fully true or false. And I see mental processes the same way. I don't see anything as being completely devoid of creativity. Even if someone were to follow a rigid pattern, I would say that it is very uncreative, but it is not zero creativity. And if anything, I would say that a person who does uncreative things, like consider corporate slop. I have watched, I think it was Judgment Day 2. It was this movie about aliens that attacked Earth, and I realized about an hour into the movie that I have watched it before. And after only an hour, I have felt that I may have seen it before, but maybe it was just a trailer. But it was so forgettable that it took me an hour to realize I had watched it before. And I would consider this sort of checkpoint slop to be less creative than, most activities involving writing shitposts on the internet. And
I mean, there's some pretty creative insults on shitposts on the internet.
Well, yes, but some of the shitposts are very like copy-paste. When someone copies an entire text block, though I would say that it can be creatively applied. I have seen some people who have applied shitposts in a very specific way to get a meaning. It's not about what you posted. It's also about why you posted it and when you posted it. So, well, I guess if you want,
it's like if somebody makes a post right now saying, "Oh my God, you have no idea what just happened in New York. The seventh tower fell." Like there's an irony to that being done in 2026 as opposed to when it actually happened.
Yes, although it is mostly very complex, very context dependent to say whether it is creative. Well, copy paste is it's a form of art, like they say, trolling is a art. Yes, but I don't really. We have different approaches. I would still argue that even by your definitions, the AI art, like it would really need to butcher this like intent for it to be, by your definition, not creative. Although if you do see many things as like completely uncreative, like I would guess, do you think that cooking the same meal every day, does it stop being creative at some point? If you, for example, cook the same oatmeal every week in a row,
I mean, sure, it's not very creative at that point. Like I promise you, I'm not going to be creative when I go and cook dinner today. I'm making red curry, and I don't make red curry very different when I make red curry.
Yes, I'm just saying zero creativity, because you use the term zero creativity.
Right. So the reason that I use the term zero creativity is because the medium, the thing that is producing the output, is not the person. The thing that is producing the output is the machine, and the machine is not creative. It lacks the ability to do that. It lacks the ability to be creative. That is an aspect of being a sapient being, and large language models are not that.
All right. But I have to go back to the photo thing. So in case of a photography, the machine is also creating, but you said it is art because you make many
the machine didn't create it, though. It is snapshotting a handful of micro decisions that a human being has made. Why did I choose it at sunset? Why did I choose this angle? Why did I choose this lens? Why did I choose this camera? It is snapshotting
Okay.
all of those decisions at once. It is not creating a thing.
It sounds a lot like a double standard to me.
And I
Because
don't think it does at all. But here's the thing we can do. Now, granted, this is going to be skewed in my favor. That is just how this is because it's going to be over on my channel. But what I can do is I can prompt people in the comment section, and I want them to be as critical of me as they possibly can, because if, let's say, you're an artist in my comment section, and you think that I've done a very poor job of explaining this or a poor job of defending this, that's entirely fine. I want to hear that opinion. Now, two things I want to know. One, obviously, this will weight in my favor. There's no way to really control for that unless you were to ask similar opinions.
I do think it's a very social issue right now. Many people would. I wouldn't trust people, not even on my side. I wouldn't trust people to have a logical outlook on this, and I would not think this is a good measure. I would say that logic is not a democracy, and I don't think it is. It is equivalent to just agree to disagree for me.
And I'm entirely okay if the ultimate endpoint of this conversation is an agreement to disagree. At that point, what I would say is, when you look at an image, and this one's not logical. This is purely emotional. So let me poison that well for you beforehand. But when you look at an image, when you look at something and you think it's pretty, do you ask yourself anything about the artist when you go in? And if you find that that same image was AI generated, do you suddenly rethink all of those questions, or do you discard them and move on? Which angle do you take?
Yes, I do actually think it just most of a background process, because I don't generally it is hierarchy of questions. I start with the more technical ones because they affect whether I like something or not, or whether I will look into it more or not. And yes, it does change things when I see that someone has used AI, because it affects the way I see the person and the way I see the image itself. And maybe a different question would be: can you think of an example of something that would use AI to generate an image, a minimal example that still uses AI, but you would consider it art? It is a good way to check what are your definitions by going. What is the first thing that counts and first thing that doesn't count? You know, the boundaries. In mathematics, it's upper and lower bounds.
So if the AI has been used to create a part of an image, if there is any aspect of the image that has been tailor-made by people, then sure, there are aspects of the image that are artistic. For an image to be art, I think that's a largely different question. And almost any answer I give here will likely be deemed as arbitrary.
Okay, well, I guess I have a more permissive view of art because you have said that basically for something to be art, it has to be made of components that are human-made, as if every part of something that is art has to be a decision in a way. For me, if the complete image is affected by creativity. Okay, maybe it's hard to put it in different words. Maybe, yes. But so far, I have only convinced one person to rethink the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
I was not very effective at it. I think for me it was very frustrating to see a lot of leftist people refuse to actually engage in the process. You have, I don't agree with your take, and I would say that it is. I would even say that it is wrong, not just that I disagree with it.
And I would say the same about yours.
But I'm glad. I'm glad that you actually tried, because I have seen a lot of people, and they don't even bother to question the whole opinion. You would see it if you tried to. Maybe it's a part of my personality. I
Vexa,
sometimes...
thank you so much for the raid. Hopefully your stream is doing well. Sorry for interrupting you. A friend of mine just raided the stream, so I wanted to say hi to them. Continue.
Something that I have learned is a good way to learn whether you are right or wrong is to troll people who are on your side.
Mm-hmm.
I have pulled myself out of alt-right pipeline this way because I trolled people who were right-winged, and I realized that they are all stupid. And when I tried to ask leftist people to explain why they see, this AI art, see it as not art, very few people actually engaged in the process, and it was about as hard as trying to get right-wingers to admit that sex and gender could be different things. No, not just that they are, but they could be.
But that there was even the possibility. I think that's an interesting way to go about things, where you just attack the people on your side to kind of poke the holes and see, like, okay, how many of you have these opinions because they're actually your convictions, and how many of you have them because of social convenience, I guess is probably the best word for it. Like, you don't want to piss off the friends around you, so you have a certain opinion. As an example,
I think most people work this way, and I work this way because I was religious. I was brought up as Catholic.
Mm-hmm. So I would say, what do you think you have gotten out of this conversation? Because I would hope there would at least be something.
Yes, I have gotten, for one, that I did not expect you to have an opinion that I couldn't. It boiled down to, I still see it as a double standard, but I think that you have reached a point where, like, I don't see any obvious logical issues. It's not. I did not expect you to reach this point. I expected you to be blocked or some logical stuff, or deny observable reality, as I have seen people on Blue Sky do. I'm mildly optimistic about it because you have attempted it. There were no insults in the whole process.
Well, there was in the video I made about you. I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. I did in the video.
Yes, I will watch it now. I will probably see what you have said about me. I'm also a bit frustrated because I could not get you to abandon what I consider a double standard.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that if you were to be less peer pressured into having this opinion, that you would actually be able to see the light and agree with me. But I can't really do much at this point. You have your social circle, and I won't say that like it's probably okay. I do think that my opinion is probably right, but I can't say that there is this analogy about people who deny global warming, that it's hard to make someone learn the truth when their paycheck depends on them not knowing this. I have butchered the quote a bit. But I do think that you have a lot of peer pressure to have your opinion. I don't know how much, but I do think that you do.
There's definitely a non-zero amount of it. Like that, like everybody has a social circle they don't want to piss off too terribly much. I'm not going to sit here and say that my opinion can't be peer pressured. There's always that chance that it is, and there's always a chance that maybe it subconsciously happened and I just didn't catch it. This is one of those things, though, that I have tried to have my opinion fleshed out on, because it's a tool that I use, and it's a tool that I know that, as an example, my editor, KFox, disagrees with me using the tool vehemently. I know that several people in my audience, especially the artists, disagree with me using the tool vehemently as well, even for just basic standard shit, which I use it for.
You mean just the text part, or did you generate images?
Just the text part. Like I generated one image for a joke on stream where I told Gemini to make Suris the VTuber, and I thought that would be enough for it to get my character comically wrong, and it did. It created like a blonde Genshin Impact type character instead of mine. So it's like, okay, cool, that did get my character comically wrong. It's exactly what I wanted, and I threw that up on stream and did like a robot voice for it for something. So like it's a tool that I've used. But even just for the text part, I know that there's people in my audience who have gotten upset at me for even using the text part. There are people that believe that it's a poison just for touching. So like when I hear your opinion, that my opinion is peer pressured, one that I did not logic myself into, I'm not insulted, really. I don't care a ton, but I care just enough to defend myself, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yes, it's a reasonable stance. I would probably describe myself a similar way, except I am literally OCD, so when I see someone who is wrong, I feel a strong pressure to correct them. And I actually think that when someone sees me wrong, I would expect them to correct me in the same way. Yes, I think this is constructive criticism is like... I do like being constructively criticized, and I think that my criticism most of the time is constructive. But thank you for the discussion. I will check all what you have, how you slandered me, and I will check what your chat has said about me. I haven't looked at the chat. I heard it's a good practice not to look at the chat at all.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it much either during this, because it doesn't seem like they're super insulting. There's some in here from like Kidma saying, "John, do you even talk to an artist?" There's some stuff in there, but it's stuff to look at after. I understand.
I would like to. There is this stereotype that people only use AI because they cannot create anything themselves, and I said that by many measures I would be an artist, even by the definitions of those people. So I actually suck at graphical art. I have tried something and I suck at it. And so this would be an excuse, but it doesn't work in the cases where I'm an artist by other measures. Mm-hmm. But yes, I bet they have insulted me many times. I will be frustrated when reading what they have said about me. Not even because it pokes at my insecurities, but just because I think it's completely wrong and completely misses every single point I have made. But thank you, and have a nice. What time is it on your side? Because it's morning around here.
It's 11 p.m. for me. It's somewhat late, but like not late for me.
All right. So thank you and have a good night. And also to the chatters that weren't shitty to me, have a good night as well. And those who were shitty to me, have a horrible night and be anxious and stressed.
Well, hopefully you have a good rest of your day. Iklana says, my critique is that he needs to understand that the leftist position is to never back a billionaire's pet project. There may be a couple people who view it that way. I could understand that. Let's see here. Jet says, that is not even a little bit of what the point I was making was, trading the entire... Hold on. I was in the middle of a Crucible match, super late, but I think comparing AI to photography is a lazy straw man. When you take a photo, the camera is not compiling photos other people have taken to make yours. That's generally my take there as well. Let's see here. I think that's mostly the take that I made, is that a thing produced an image, but the actual creation part was your decisions. Iklana says, how do you think they produce so many unique apes, manually photoshopping the drawing? Let's see here. I'm trying to see if there's anything else interesting in here. Vexa says, 'twas good. Well, I'm glad your stream was good. I'm glad your stream was good. Raymalis says, could one consider what a human does after generating an image art? I guess we did sort of touch on this with a thing called art psychosis, but I mean, like, in general. Kinba says, notice that the AI bro goes to a politics side to talk about art and not someone who makes art or studies it. I think it's because, though, that I, for a couple of reasons, I'm willing to have my opinion and defend my opinion, whereas, I'm going to be honest, most people who are artists don't have to. And that's not that they're in some, like, unique special position. It's that they don't have to fucking care when you give a wrong opinion on the internet. Like, they can just go, okay, that's cool. I'm going to draw you pregnant now. Give me a second. I need to make sure that I don't die to this asshole. There we go. There we go. I did the thing. Yeah, we'll see how the... Oh, I wasn't supposed to hit a blank there. That was a mistake. We'll see how John feels the conversation went. I'm sure he'll be in the comment section of the video when the video goes live. I'm interested to see how K-Fox is gonna treat this particular video during the editing process. I want to see what goes on there. I feel like this... T-shirt cannon. Fuck off. Anyway, hopefully this was enjoyable for y'all. I still stand by my position. And obviously there's some bit of unfairness that I get the last word, but I still stand by my position that the human part of the creative process is required for something to be art, and the creative process when it comes to AI is generation. It is facsimilating something out of nothing. If I put in, you know, a 100-word prompt, I'm going to get 100 different images when I try generating it 100 different times. Kinma says, sure, but plenty of conflicted the stuff head on. So there is an aspect where John may have reached out to some of those people in their comment section by being a little troll and just got blocked. Not every artist will invite conflict the same way I will. And that doesn't make me special. That actually might make me mentally ill. More than anything. That may actually just make me mentally ill. Like I said, I would go through how one interprets abstract art. I use Jackson Pollock's blue... My god, it did this. Let's see. It scrolled. I'd use Jackson Pollock's blue poles, which is basically a bunch of paint splatters. But we look at it mentally by reenacting the artist's movements as painted. So... You could use Jackson Pollock, I guess, but I am not familiar with Jackson Pollock. There is an artist that I am familiar with, though, that does abstract art, and that's Mark Rothko. I actually had to study Mark Rothko in school for my art class, and when I was studying Mark Rothko, if you've ever seen his art, it is literally just a handful of colors, one on top of one another. But what he's always communicating is what his emotional state was at the time. So, like, one of his most famous paintings, most recognizable ones, is literally it looks like a sunset almost, kind of, because it's an orange and a red image next to each other more than anything, like orange and red paint gradiented into each other, and the fact that it looks kind of like a sunset, but it also might kind of look like a fire, but it also might kind of look like a few other things, and the conversations that come from trying to figure out what it specifically may be, like, those things are interesting to me. Those things are super interesting to me. That's why I enjoyed studying it in school. Said, oh, Rothko's another one, so much emotion? Yeah. Like, I'm not going to say that I'm like some art connoisseur. I'm not, but I know the things that I have studied, and that is one of the ones that I studied. But that said, I want to know what y'all's opinions are in the comment section below when this goes up on YouTube. I'd like to know if you think I performed okay, if you think that I did not perform well, if there's any points that I missed largely that you wish that I would have said. I want to know what y'all's opinions are, and feel free to be as harsh as humanly possible towards me specifically. I want to know where I can improve with stuff like this. That said, see y'all in the next one. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.